All right. Well, speaking of TSN 690's Joey Alfieri joins us from Montreal with a ton to talk. We went into the show thinking about NHLers to the Olympics, but now we've got more teams added to COVID protocol. Montreal Canadiens were this morning. Joey, what is your take on this last week in COVID wreaking havoc on pro sports?
Yeah, Roddy, it's tough, man. It's tough that I thought that they might be able to get to the Christmas break clean, and then you can kind of reassess after 3 days off. But it's so many teams that have been forced into this. Like I look at the Canadiens, and they had Brendan Gallagher and Sami Niku in COVID protocol a couple weeks ago. They just got out at the beginning of this week. Now they had, I know Cedric Paquette was somebody they were monitoring, but Laurent Dauphin and Arturi Lehkonen are confirmed positive now, so it's a couple more players. But with Montreal, I mean, it's been such a rough year, compared to where you were last summer, spring, going to the Stanley Cup final to now. It seems like the hits just keep on coming. But league-wide, I hope that they can kind of weather the storm, that they can get through this after the majority of teams are going to have more than a week off. And look, I know we can probably kiss the Olympics goodbye. I want to see them go, but it just doesn't make sense anymore. And I'm curious to see how they kind of rework the schedule in February now.
Oh, for sure. And I really love the way the NHL handled it. They said it's up to the players to go. And after talking to my hockey people, they're like, the owners never wanted the players to go in the first place. So now it's you guys wanted to go so bad, you decide. And it clearly looks like they do not want to go. But, it's a nightmare right now in the NHL. But as you say, particularly so for what the Montreal Canadiens have been through. What is the latest on the general manager search there, Joey?
Yeah, so it looks like Jeff Gorton wants to go with an outside-the-box hire. I think it was reported in The Athletic last week that they might be interviewing. There's 3 women that they're considering. They're also looking at hockey people that don't necessarily have a ton of experience. So we haven't necessarily – everything's top secret out of the Montreal Canadiens, right? So we haven't been able to pinpoint who exactly is going to be strongly considered. But, you're hearing the names of Matthew Darche, Danny Briere, and company. So I don't know what the timeline is. Like, they've kind of left it open to interpretation. They said that the GM wouldn't be hired before the holidays, and certainly that's not going to happen. But now it's just a question of, I don't think the GM is going to be a silent partner, but I want to know how much power they're going to have compared to Jeff Gorton when it comes to making trades, making signings, and things of that nature.
Is there a consensus fan favorite or a leader in the clubhouse in your mind, Joey? Because I'd heard when I was back in Canada 6 weeks ago or so that it was going to be Matthew Darche. The buzz in hockey is that he has been prepped for this role. He's the perfect guy. Do the fans want anybody? Do they know who Matthew Darche is?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he played here not too long ago, right? Had a nice little NHL career as a bottom 6 guy. And I think with his experience in business, his experience within this market, I do think that I think he's a fine candidate. Like, if they ended up announcing Matthew Darche, I'd be totally fine with that. He's a sharp dude. He's won a couple Stanley Cups. He's helped out in Tampa Bay with Julien Brisebois there. So I think if you asked most people, they would probably go with Darche, but I think you have a bunch of guys. Martin Madden out in Anaheim's gotten a bunch of love. Danny Briere, like I mentioned, has gotten some love too. So I think there's a lot of guys. There's been a lot of people that have kind of been propped up, so to speak, over the course of the last few weeks, just because, the product on the ice has been rough. So it gives you more and more time to kind of speculate as to who the next general manager is going to be. But I think consensus, I think the small majority would probably tell you that Matthew Darche would be the favorite among the fan base.
Joey, you've clearly worn your CFL chapeau for a reason. So let's talk a little about the 3-down game. We got through the season. We got through the Grey Cup. Now I think it's 380 free agents available. Ottawa just hired a general manager. What is your take on the CFL as we are now 1 week into the offseason?
Yeah, I like to make waves with my hat choices. Last time I was on, Roddy, I wore a Brooklyn Nets hat, and the chat kind of blew up, which I wasn't expecting. So I went CFL today. But look, the CFL got the season in the nick of time. It feels like something finally went the CFL's way. And, it wasn't even really touch and go, right, with what happened up here. There was one game that was moved. It ended up being a meaningless game between Toronto and Edmonton. But I thought the players handled themselves well. Just talking to a lot of players in this city, in Montreal, and around the league, I think most guys kind of took it seriously, and I think the end result proves that. With free agency, I mean, Montreal already made a big couple moves last week, bringing back Gino Lewis and Vernon Adams, and it's kind of tough to disagree with those moves. I mean, to me, I still can't believe that Gino Lewis wasn't on the CFLPA All-Star team. I had a media vote, and I put him on the media team, and he ended up being on there. And for Vernon Adams, I know people were kind of split. Some liked what they saw from Trevor Harris, but I think this is the way to go. I think this year was obviously tough injury-wise for Vernon, and it was tough from a even on-field perspective, Roddy. Before he went down, I think there was a lot of times where he struggled and he just couldn't recapture that magic from 2019. So now, how much of that is what happened, play calling wise? How much of it is just the injuries and the year off? I don't know, but I like the moves that they made. I like that they brought back Vernon, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt going into 2022.
The viewers want to know something that I want to know. B. Henderson, watching on YouTube, says, how come Montreal doesn't want to hire Patrick Roy as their next general manager?
I don't think that Montreal doesn't want to hire. I mean, from the fan base, I think they're pretty split. But I don't know, he has so many people backing him in the media, especially on the French side. I mean, Jeff Gordon's introductory press conference, he was asked about one candidate, and it was Patrick Roy. So I think it's a fair question. To me, when I think of Patrick, I mean, and I'm assuming they haven't said, Roddy, but they've, it looks like they're going to head for a rebuild. And we know how fiery and how competitive Patrick is. Is he a guy well-suited to be general manager of a rebuilding team? I don't know. To me, I think if you hire Patrick Roy for your NHL team to work in partnership, in tandem with a guy like Jeff Gordon, who has a lot of GM experience, I don't know that works for me. So I think any team, and I don't know who's hiring Patrick, to be honest with you, but any team that hires Patrick, it feels to me, this is just my opinion, but it feels to me like if you're going to hire Patrick, he's got to be the guy. You have to embrace the circus, embrace what he brings, embrace the competitor, embrace the fieriness, that kind of personality that he brings. But to me, if you're hiring Patrick, you're hiring him to be the guy. And I don't think that that's the situation the Canadiens are in right now. They already have a guy who takes up a lot of room in the front office.
Everybody loves him. There must be somebody that doesn't. That's why he's not.
I love him too. Roddy, don't get me wrong. I love him too. I think that he's must-see TV whenever he works in the NHL, and obviously he means a lot to this market. No questions asked. One of the all-time greats. And if they hired him, I wouldn't really bat an eyelash. It's just that I don't know that this is the situation. I don't know that the timing is right now.
Hey, we got about a minute. NFL, very excited, week 15, and it looks like an incredibly wild finish. Who is Montreal's NFL team? Or is it like Toronto that it's split among so many you couldn't designate one?
Yeah, you can. You can't really designate. I mean, there's a big portion of the NFL fan base that's Cowboys Nation, Steelers Nation for sure, too. You got Raider Nation also. I get some love out here, but it's way too spread out. The fan bases are to pick one team. It just it doesn't work that way in this city. It's kind of all over the map.
Who do you like?
I was a Raider fan growing up, but Roddy, I'm a fantasy football guy now, so it's hard for me to root.
I got you. Okay, my friend, Joyeux Noël, however you say it in Italian, and we'll see you in 2022.
Thanks, buddy. Merry Christmas to everybody there, except your boy Clark, because he's a Maple Leafs fan.
How about that?
Gotcha. You got it. How about that? Appreciate you. Thanks, Joey. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.